Good afternoon. Welcome to PCAP's 10th annual Prairie's Got the Goods Week. My name is Caitlin Monroe-Seiler, and I'm the Stewardship Coordinator with Saskatchewan Prairie Conservation Action Plan, or PCAP. Today is our final webinar for our Prairie's Got the Goods Week, and Alvin First Rider will be speaking about Blood Tribe Environmental Protection Division. This is the final event happening, and if you missed our other webinars, you can check out the YouTube channel, and that's youtube.com/user/skpcap, and we have over 300 webinars that are recorded there. We also have our Native Prairie Speaker Series, so if you would like to learn more about our webinars, check out the PCAP website. Before we get started, I'd like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territories of many Indigenous nations and communities, past and present. For millennia, they have worked to protect these landscapes and the life these areas sustain. I'd like to thank these Original caretakers and acknowledge the ongoing work and presence of Indigenous peoples in Canada today. And a reminder to our listeners out there, you'll be muted for the duration of the presentation, but if you have any questions, you can type it into the Q&A section of the dashboard, and we'll have about 5 minutes at the end of the webinar to answer a few questions. We often have more questions than we can answer, so questions will be prioritized by upvotes and relevance. And as a nonprofit organization, SKPCAP graciously depends on the support of our sponsors to keep our programs free for everyone. We'd like to thank Canadian Forage and Grasslands Association, North American Helium, Pembina, and SaskTel. Our supporting sponsors are Innovation Credit Union, Branchard Stewardship Alliance, Inc., and in-kind support has been provided today by the Blood Tribe Land Management. So I'm really excited to be able to introduce today's presenter. Alvin First Rider is an environmental manager with the Blood Tribe Land Management Environmental Protection Division, where he currently serves as Interim Environmental Protection Manager. He is a member of the Blood Tribe Kainai Nation and a descendant of the Blackfoot Blackfeet Nation. Alvin was raised on the Blood Reserve in southern Alberta and in north central Montana, and he holds post-secondary credentials in environmental science and land management, including studies at Blackfeet Community College and Salish Kootenai College. In his professional work, Alvin focuses on mitigating environmental impacts of land use and development on blood reserve lands, incorporating both scientific and traditional Indigenous approaches to land stewardship. So with that, I will pass it over to you, Alvin.
Okay. Nastuanago Natayunasaksan. So yeah, my Blackfoot name is Holy Descent, and yeah, just happy to be here today to share what we do on our reserve here. Yeah, this the prairie's got the goods. So you can see my slides, perfect.
Yes, we can. Everything looks
Okay,
good.
okay, awesome. So yeah, I work with the Blood Tribe Land Management Department and our Environment Protection Division as the environment manager or protection manager. So the interim is removed and I'm the actual manager now. Uh, so yeah, this our kind of overall mission is to see a future where land is respected as a living entity, ecosystems are resilient and abundant, and Blood Tribe members are connected and empowered to care for their land and each other. We really prioritize to assess, monitor, and report, create that awareness and educational campaign so people could be empowered to take action on the landscape, and then really incorporate in Blackfoot ecological knowledge into how we manage our landscape. So really trying to look from a Blackfoot lens and incorporate indigenous-led management techniques that have been on this landscape and help shape these lands and have been suppressed due to colonial um, policies. So yeah, this kind of main focus is buffalo and land, the importance they play from a cultural component to a spiritual or just the ecological component, and how our relationships have been shaped through since time immemorial, and just the important roles that our environment plays on our health as on a personal level. Um, as somebody that is in recovery, being able to connect with the land and being able to go out on the land and connect has brought a broader sense of healing from a more holistic standpoint. And I've been able to really uh, heal, I guess, from that type of perspective by being able to be out on the land and connect with the different lands that are the southern Alberta and north central Montana have. So yeah, just a little bit about our reserve. We're just north of the 49th parallel, the border there, United States Canada border. We have our timber limits that borders Waterton and Glacier National Park. Uh, and then our main reserve is the biggest metro area is Lethbridge, and we're pretty much on the foothills of the eastern slopes. We have a wide range of ecosystems that go from our mixed grasslands in the north to foothills fescue in the south. And then we're surrounded by three rivers, the Old Man, the Belly, and the St. Mary's. And they heavily influence what what is happening on that landscape level management. So being able to look at our reserve from that type of management scale, from a watershed scale, really helps kind of capture our holistic thinking as Blackfoot people. So yeah, historically, our reserve was pretty much made up of grasslands, few riparian forests, and then just the odd uh, like forest that's on certain slopes of our coulees and uh, yeah, our coulees. And over the years, it has been fragmented into different developments such as cultivation, uh, um, oil and gas, and just other sectors like that, as well as uh, communities, homes, and different type of human development, contemporary human developments. So really trying to look at ways that we could protect what's remaining and increase that connectivity that will help our kin move throughout the landscape. Our North End grasslands was once one of the largest remaining tracts of unfenced grasslands at one time, but has been kind of pasteurized in the last 30, 40 years. So yeah, really incorporating our youth and our elders in how we're protecting and caring for Gana Slakgoy. So that this means blood reserve lands. Um, Trying to educate them on what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve, and then getting their feedback on how we proceed and where we prioritize our land management objectives. Um, Getting our youth involved is really important because they are the future caretakers, but what they find important is really helps us kind of prioritize what they want to see and what they deem important. So really getting into our school systems and doing presentations and then getting feedback from them really helps kind of shape our ecological goals and objectives there. So different projects that we do. We have our ENI rematriation project where we conduct different health assessments and wildlife surveys, just a whole suite of environmental surveys that we do on that specific project. We do amphibian surveys throughout our reserve and our timber limits to look at our northern leopard frog population. Northern leopard frogs are extirpated in a lot of their historic range, and we're trying to help that population bounce back. We do cultural burning, so really trying to reintroduce that historical fire cycle that was on the landscape from indigenous led management. indigenous people manipulated the land to help meet their needs, and fire was a huge factor in that type of management. And then looking at weed control, so how are we best managing our weeds that we have on the reserve, and looking at different biocontrol methods such as fire or grazing, and then just the other conventional methods that people are trying to use on the landscape. Some other projects that we have are our Six Ducky coexistence project. So really looking at how we could coexist with beavers, but then also utilizing BDAs, beaver dam analogs, or different type of post-assisted log structures, so we could help with water storage on the landscape and help kind of recharge our groundwater and recharge our natural systems. Just we've been in a drought, and it's getting alarming what we're seeing on the landscape. And I have a pond that's uh, been a part of my life since a child. Like I would go skating on it in the winter and skip rocks in the summer. And uh, the last few years, it's gone bone dry. Like, and this was deep, like over 8 feet deep pond that has gone dry. In the 40 years I've been alive, I've never witnessed that in the last few years. So that in itself has really brought a alarm to me on what we're seeing on the landscape, and what our water systems are how they're being impacted by our short winters and non-existent rain season. So really trying to find ways to store water when we do get those little bit of systems that move through the landscape. Carnivore species at risk. So looking at our carnivores that are on the landscape and how we could help create that space for them. So create a coexistence program so that we educate people, but then also uh, utilize best management practices such as like bear-proof trash bins, or different type of educational awareness programs that educate people on how to bear-proof their properties. Our timber limit. So, like I mentioned, we're right next to Waterton and Glacier National Park. So, trying to align a multi-species action plan that kind of aligns with what Waterton's trying to achieve, and then what Glacier is trying to achieve, so that we could work together as one and not look at those jurisdictional boundaries, because species at risk just don't recognize those. So it's better to be collaborative in that type of sense and build together. Indigenous led grassland enhancement. So really looking at how we could help our culturally significant species, but then also our native species, whether that's seed bank and seed storage, or actually growing within a greenhouse. We have a greenhouse that is being built, so looking at ways that we could enhance that project so that eventually it could roll into being a standalone project, and look at ways that it could sustain our culturally significant species, and then help with native plant restoration projects that are ongoing on the reserve. And then our Ghana Sakwa ecological and invasive species initiatives. So looking at how we're monitoring and creating baseline information on invasive species. So we're actually looking collecting data that will support the different invasive species management. So whether that's using fire, whether that's using chemicals, or using goats, and how we could uh, use that data to help support the importance of those control methods. And then also that creating a ecological community guide that reflects what we see on the reserve here. I'll go into that a little bit later. So yeah, like I mentioned, we have two kind of main eco types within our reserve, that mixed grass and foothills fescue. We have smaller microclimates along the rivers. Of course, we have different poplar and cottonwood forests that surround our reserve. and then just our soils are made up of mixed of black and dark brown, and our wheatgrasses kind of dominate our northern area, and then the fescue kind of transitions, and sometimes we'll get both in one ecological plot. There's sometimes we won't get any, so really trying to pay attention to those ecological communities so we could fill those gaps that certain plant community guides don't reflect on the reserve. So yeah, the our reserve, our north end grassland, is home to our Ghana bison herd, our rematriation project. So really trying to collect that baseline data before they released, and what is happening on the landscape. What are we seeing? What type of species are returning? And what is the plant community? What is the insect community doing on the landscape as bison are getting more interactive with that ecosystem? So really trying to support bison-led restoration projects and capture that data that helps support that. One of the major things that we do is breeding bird surveys or migratory bird point counts, looking at the different years and capturing what we're seeing on the landscape, what's migrating through, what's using the reserve as stopover habitat, and what type of species at risk are we seeing? So really looking at that relative abundance, like I said, species composition and species richness, and how we could support those species on the landscape with our management objectives, um, and to help, yeah, just provide those spaces for them, whether it's stopover habitat or actual nesting habitat, and then utilizing our management objectives such as fire or bison, and so that it supports these species and that we're not harming them. Another big thing that we do, like I mentioned, we're trying to create that traditional plant seed bank and restoration project. So doing these traditional plant surveys and getting out with our youth and elders to help conduct these surveys, and then monitoring what is happening to these populations on the land. Are they decreasing or are they increasing? And then where can we assist if they are being um, if they're being less abundant on the landscape? So certain species like cottonwood and willows, they just haven't been seeing that regeneration on the landscape. So how could we help that natural regeneration, and how can we help these species be there so our culture can continue within our reserve, um, and then finding ways to just ramp up our seed bank and um, our greenhouse and growing plant plugs and other different cuttings. So just really looking at how our traditional plant surveys could uh, help assist those other projects that we have on the land. So yeah, the big thing is range health assessments, right? Getting out there and doing range health. So we have data that goes back like to the early 2000s, range health assessments, and looking at what the trajectory is and what is occurring on the landscape. And over the years, like the past few years, when we started kind of heavily looking at our bison rematriation area, we were identifying that a lot of our eco or our pastures were unhealthy or healthy with problems. And then once we did restore or get bison back on the landscape, we started to notice the uptick, and we shifted to a lot of healthy scores versus when they weren't on the landscape, we were getting that unhealthy with or healthy with problem scores. So really looking at how our rangeland um, is moving out on the landscape. So what type of scores are happening, and what the trajectory is them, so that we could maintain those areas and continue to yeah, have that balanced grassland that's really important in our world. Having these remaining tracts of grassland stay in place, and um, as natural grasslands is really important for our future generations so they can go back and connect with these areas, but then also connect with the past, right? Like it's a connection pathway for the past, present, and future to actually connect. So yeah, I mentioned our Gana Sakwai plant community guide that's really looking at filling the gaps that other plant community guides that have been uh, built. Um, when we would go out and do our rangeland health assessments, uh, we wouldn't be able to find the plant community guides that we or the plant communities that we were seeing in our plot. So one of the things we did was create a partnership with different consultants so that we could um, fill those gaps and look at ways that we could go out and collect data, but then also kind of move that scientific community forward, continue to build off of what has already been built. So this plant community guide, we're looking at releasing and just utilizing, but then also every year as we get out on the landscape, continue to build up those sample sizes so that um, we're supporting this community guide, and it's that we could share with the broader community, and then they could go back and utilize it because in southern Alberta there are some gaps in a lot of the plant community guides, and this will help support those. Another thing with our ini rematriation is looking at insects, so pitfall traps, looking at the dung beetle, what was here before, and then what was here after, and then that could also look at the what how healthy they are as well. But then just monitoring what the insects community as well, trying to get that holistic lens of what's occurring on the landscape and looking at it from the insects right up to human use or even mammal use. So just really trying to capture as much data as we can to help create that holistic picture and the importance of bison on the landscape. Uh, Another thing that we look is testing for water quality, whether that's just doing your suite of water quality sampling in dugouts or actually getting on the landscape and doing cabin monitoring in our streams and rivers so that we could monitor the health of what our aquatic systems look like. Like I mentioned, we do our northern leopard frogs, and what they need is that clean water. We also do uh, bull trout and west slope cutthroat trouts in partnership with the Blackfoot Confederacy, and being able to monitor our aquatic our river sheds is really important. So another big initiative is cultural fire, building a indigenous-led guardians program based on cultural fire. The past few years has kind of been a priority of the Blood Tribe Land Management. So we actually have a few guardians that get out on the landscape and conduct cultural fires and trying to replicate what has occurred in California. So California, they got a unique system where uh, they recognize cultural fire practitioners and they're able to get that certification. And then those cultural fire practitioners uh, get insured through the state of California. So, really trying to look at ways that we could enhance that cultural fire practitioners up here in Canada is really important. Um, and like I mentioned, it's about recreating that seasonal round relationship that Blackfoot people had on the landscape. So looking at certain ecological indicators, whether that's birds nesting or bees flying or different plants emerging, and then looking at when we should apply fire and when we should stop actual birding. So really trying to capture when we could burn and capture those windows. Like we've been in some like uh hurricane winds the past week, and once the weather does calm down, like it's good to try to be able to burn in those small windows where in the past we didn't have the capacity or manpower to do that, and now we do. Now we're able to burn uh, when those winds slow down or when those conditions or those ecological indicators are not present, and then we're able to conduct our burns. So yeah, just really trying to tap into our Blackfoot ecological knowledge and shape how we're managing our cultural fire on the landscape. So yeah, some from a invasive plant management program. So we're trying to incorporate fire into our seasonal invasive plants IPM program. And we have these major invasives, leafy spurge, spotted knapweed, and burdock, amongst others. Like we have a lot of invasive grasses that have been introduced to our system. So looking at ways that fire could support these and the different type of fire intensities as well. Like what type of fire intensity it would take to actually burn spotted knapweed. It's pretty resilient. It's one of those species that is hard to burn. So looking at just different test trials on how we could actually use fire on the landscape, and then just a different biocontrol method. So utilizing goats and utilizing insects and different type of biocontrol methods before we resort to chemical, and then utilizing just your good old manpower of pulling, hand pulling, and those type of controls. So just doing different type of techniques on the reserve and trying to test which one will actually help control and eventually, hopefully, at least knock it back. But yeah, we're just once these species get out on the landscape, you're pretty much into just controlling how far they move on the land. So yeah, I mentioned our carnivore species at risk. So really trying to document where they're being seen on the landscape. So if we're having people, so utilizing citizen science. So if people are saying they're seeing them in a certain area, so going out verifying that they're there or putting up trail cams, acoustic recording units, so we could actually verify that they're there and then document how they're interacting with the public. This and then educating the people in that vicinity on how they could coexist with them without having to remove them. Because a lot of the times the bears will they'll they're not uh, being harmful in any way or being aggressive. So just educating our people on how to coexist with those type of animals that just want a space to grow. Uh, Another thing that we on the reserve have to kind of consider is different type of legislations and which one will help with our best management practices. So either the Wildlife Act of Alberta or the Federal Species at Risk Act. So reserves are at large federal controlled lands, or from a colonial perspective, but from an indigenous perspective, like we're a sovereign nation within a nation, and there's that nation to nation relationship. So understanding how we could utilize what is established to help our best management practices or our policies and procedures, so we could build and support one another instead of being so um, yeah, just helping support these two legislations is what we're trying to achieve. Um, so yeah, like I mentioned, utilizing Blackfoot ecological knowledge as well as that cultural knowledge to help support those type of best management practices. So we could coexist, but then also manage our landscapes from that holistic Blackfoot lens and incorporate contemporary policies into our land management. So yeah, just why conservation is important. I'm sure everybody knows it's a important thing, but we need to continue to um, advocate for it. So getting out to people that don't have that knowledge or don't look at conservation as important. So just um, trying to get this message across to as many people as we can, so we could try to build that support within the conservation world, and then build it from within and then out. So really, yeah, support our biodiversity. Like every year, you hear of species going extinct, or I'm sure if you're out on the landscape, you start noticing a decrease in biodiversity. So how could we support that so these species remain for our future generations? And everything is dependent on one another. So how do we support each other? How do we support our kin as we manage our lands? Some more of our carnivore species at risk. So yeah, just camera deployment, utilizing Blackfoot ecological knowledge, so different type of stories, um, and how our relationship with different carnivores has evolved in since time immemorial. And then just bear awareness programs, and then reporting different encounters. So a lot of people have documented, say, wolves in our central area. So going out and verifying if there is actually wolves or not. So that's really important, is following up on encounters, and then um, managing that if they are present, managing the carnivores where they're at. So these are some areas that we found important, um, whether that was through uh, reports or actually getting out and collecting data. So identifying scat or utilizing our trail cams, or actually just visually seeing different carnivores on the landscape. So it really shows the importance of that. The river corridors that they play for our animals to move, whether that's the St. Mary's or Belly Rivers, and I'm sure that they're moving back and forth to the our mountain ecosystem. So really trying to prioritize how we could keep those corridors open for them, and that they're not being threatened just because they use those areas. Our six-decade beaver project, so in our timber limit multi-species at risk project. So just yeah, trying to create that coexistence with these type of species, looking at different partnerships, whether it's with the Mistake Institute or Cows and Fish, or actual federal government, Waterton Lakes National Park, or different other partners that we have partnered with over the years. So we have other consultants that we partner with, and just different partners. So just really creating collaboration and looking at ways that we could support each other. So our goal is just, yeah, create coexistence, kind of shift that narrative of beavers being a nuisance on the landscape, and then looking at how we evolved with beavers. So beavers are highly revered in Blackfoot way of life, or Blackfoot culture. So trying to kind of share that with the general public, or just share that with our membership, so that we could continue that relationship that historically we had with beavers. So yeah, coexistence are really important. If beavers are in your area, there's going to be water. And water is so precious right now. Um, that makes these guys precious. So having beavers on the landscape and trying to coexist with them, figuring out solutions on what you need to achieve to coexist with them is really important. Because without water, like we can't survive. So these little ecological engineered keystone species are going to be important players in the future. So there's some things that we've done: PALs, BDAs, pond levelers, and then tree wrapping, um, so that they don't hurt infrastructure. Utilizing the BBAs just for that short-term storage on the landscape, like we're not actually creating stoppage, but it's allowing the water to at least stop and remain present for longer than it usually has. And then installing pond levelers where they are um, threatening infrastructure um, has been really instrumental. And having partnerships with Ubetula, Kirby, has really helped kind of get pond levelers in the ground. So like I mentioned, creating collaborations and partnerships is really important. And then utilizing citizen science. So we utilize uh, this uh, satellite imagery called Beavers from Space to look at potential beaver habitat or historical beaver habitat. And people would look at satellite imagery and um, say that, yes, this kind of meets the criteria, that there's a beaver lodge or there's a beaver dam in this area. And then we generated points based off of those, uh, the feedback we got. And then we would go out and verify, yes, there are beavers in the landscape. Historically, this is a historic beaver canal, or this is a historic beaver lodge or beaver dam, or yes, there is presently beavers utilizing this area, or sometimes it was just maybe a willow that branched out and looked like a dam. So really utilizing citizen science so we could go out and verify habitat. Collaborating with elders, youth, the community, and then just different ENGOs on how we could just build best practices around beaver coexistence. Our timber limit, so uh, we have different type of important species at risk, but then also looking at those cultural species at risk. So looking at it from that Blackfoot lens, like I've mentioned, and how we could manage our lands from that so that these species will remain there and we have those kinship relationships with these different species. So some stuff we've been able to identify are northern leopard frogs, the different bear species in our area, wolverines, and then bull trout, west slope cutthroat trout, limber pine, different type of trees, and then looking at how we could support those systems. So northern leopard frogs, we've actually done some reintroductions, um, and we've actually found some isolated habitats within or isolated populations within our grassland coulees of our main reserve, where we thought they were extirpated, but then once we got out and started doing more surveys, we actually found a really healthy population that we're actually going to look at utilizing for different reintroductions on the land. Um, so yeah, just strategically planning for our ecological communities, but then also for our kin, the different animals, different plant species on the landscape, and how we could use best management practices to build up those areas and then also be adaptive as as this world is shifting, right? So really trying to look at it from that landscape level and how we could continue to ensure that uh, we'll survive in the future. And then just yeah, making sure that our way of life continues along with our ecological community. Another thing that we kind of is just buffalo restoration. We had our 10th anniversary of Buffalo Treaty in 2024, and that was something that people across the world came to see our our bison, but they also came to support the Buffalo Treaty and Buffalo restoration. Like we had people from, yeah, all over the world, different institutions, and then just from a personal level, people supported buffalo restoration on the land. So a really great initiative and really exciting to see where it goes in the next 10 years. And that is me. I felt like I was
Amazing.
running
Thank you.
out of time.
That's okay. Thank you so, so much. That was a really inspiring presentation. We've had lots of people write in, and it's amazing the amount of work that you're doing there. We have a few questions if we've got some time for it. Um, so the first one is from Jessica, and she says, your story is inspiring, seeing a community build a connection to the landscape that's been lost for too long. Jessica would like to know how are the Blackfoot bringing this initiative an example to other tribes? Is that happening?
Mhm. So yeah, take our fire program. We're trying to just create that synergy with, say, our Blackfeet, the Blackfeet Nation in Montana, or the Piikani, the northern Piikani near Crow's Nest Pass, or Siksika up by Calgary. So it's in our Blackfoot Confederacy, looking at knowledge exchanges, like if they're so yeah, looking at ways that they could support our Fire Guardians program. There was so the Blackfeet called their guardians the Shield Keepers, and they had a Blackfoot Shield Keepers guardian gathering in October. So we went over there, and they invited the different environment programs from the Blackfoot Confederacy, and we just shared, had a knowledge exchange of what each program was doing, uh, where we could help each other. So, like the Blackfeet, they kind of started with BDAs and pond levelers and different type of coexistence, and then they kind of supported us on kind of creating that type of program up here. So, utilizing those type of knowledge exchange programs has helped kind of build out and flesh out different initiatives where we could support each other, whether that's bison reintroductions, beaver reintroductions, northern leopard frogs or plants. So, um, and then looking at ways that we could support other nations throughout Canada or even the US, right? So, um, yeah, like I mentioned, trying to build off of what they're doing in California. So,
Yeah, it's awesome the work that you've done.
mm.
Um, we've had another question about the plant community guide. It's amazing that you guys have one. Is it publicly available? And if so, where can people buy one?
So yeah, we're gonna be making it available. We just did like a third review of it to kind of look at work out all the kinks and then what we're adding to it. So it's adaptive, right? Like we're adding to it every year. And right now we we forgot to add page numbers. So just yeah, working out those little kinks and then it'll be available.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Well, whenever it is, feel free to let us know and we can share it with people who are interested too and get the word out. And I know these things take a lot of time and often the plant names change and that sort of thing too. So
Mhm.
it's very complex,
Yeah, it
but
is. Yeah.
quite an undertaking you've got there. We've got a few more questions that have come in here. One of our attendees is wondering if there's any limits to land being converted from native land to agricultural crops. Do you have any policies or anything about that?
So yeah, just kind of using best management practices, the federal like legislation. So yeah, just doing different type of assessments prior to any disturbance. Um, so a lot of the cultivation happened to pre like SIA 1999 or whatever. So like there was no environment regulations and stuff. So but as things evolve, those things have been put in place. So just yeah, following those type of things, and those usually support um, that non-conversion. And this just our ecological data, and then our narrative, right, of protecting grasslands is really help support that.
Absolutely. Well, that's great to hear.
Mm.
An attendee named Jeff is wondering, with the bison repatriation program, are the bison grazed in fenced quarter sections or a full section pasture, or are they a bit more open range style with tracts of land?
So yeah, they're in pastures, so they range from like 600 plus to like 1,000 acres or more. Um, we're looking at ways to, so our Ban Ranch, our Northland grassland, like I mentioned, was once one of the largest remaining untracked, and then it's been fenced into 14 different pastures remaining, like different sizes. Some are small, some are big. So we're looking at ways of just fencing the exterior and removing all the fences in the interior so that they just have a larger area to graze. And then that will help that kind of pressures on those systems so we're not having to um, just focus on this rotational grazing that's big in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very interesting. An attendee named Josh was wondering if you're using drones at all to do any of your wildlife surveys or monitoring.
So yeah, we're doing drones to look at cumulative impacts. Um, they're also looking at drones for the residential school, burial sites, like the
Okay.
LiDAR, that type of stuff. They're also, yeah, just different type of vegetation assessment. So yeah, really trying to incorporate those as well for our environmental surveys.
Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic. I bet that saves a lot of boots on the ground work.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, Haley is wondering about the wolverines, and if you've done any targeted studies on them in specific, and if you know if there's a healthy population present.
So yeah, nothing specific, just looking out, trying to verify that they're within our timber limits or supporting Waterton in their initiatives, right? So conducting surveys when they're doing it and then looking at ways that we could support them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have a few questions about range health. Digit is wondering, she says, thank you so much, Alvin. Truly informative and inspirational. Is the nation considering developing a range health protocol and guide that would incorporate Blackfoot ecological knowledge in the measures? Have you guys thought about that at all?
So that's kind of what that plant community guide is, right? So there's Blackfoot
Okay.
ecological knowledge incorporated into it. We're looking at yeah, just incorporating Blackfoot stories into it, so Blackfoot plant stories, um, and then yeah, just looking at how it could support that Blackfoot ecological knowledge. So that yeah, plant community guide is kind of reflective, and it incorporates the two
Okay.
worlds. Yeah.
Awesome. And another attendee is wondering if the range health has improved there since you've introduced bison.
Mhm.
Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, prior to our release of bison, our scores were unhealthy or healthy with
Mhm.
problems, and then since we've released them, they've gone up to healthy or healthy with problems. So yeah, we've noticed a shift in that plant community or plant health score. So just
Okay.
just the few years that they've been on, like we've seen just the uptick in biodiversity in our communities.
Amazing. And do you know what was causing the poor range scores before the bison?
So historically it was a cattle operation, so maybe just the overgraze, but then maybe the lack of grazing in the area as well. So prior to our release of bison, that area got rested for about 7.5, 8 years. So there was some rest in between, and then just yeah, I think that was kind of the major factor that we were kind of seeing on the land.
Okay, great. Um, And an attendee named Tyne is wondering, first of all, they say incredible, comprehensive, and holistic program and amazing work. So, a few questions. With the leopard frog, bison fire programs likely improving wetland habitat, are there improving target habitats that you might reintroduce frogs to?
So yeah, we're looking at our different wetlands and that are connected to river systems, right? So looking at how we could reintroduce those populations so that they're highly successful. So we've reintroduced them in a couple areas of our timber limit just because they meet that criteria of connectivity to a river system. So just as we get out and do our surveys, identifying those areas, um, like we have, it's the largest reserve in Canada, but as you look at it from a landscape level, it's not really that much land. It's a lot of river systems, so getting out and identifying those areas that will support northern leopard frogs, whether it's on the St. Mary's or um, Belly River, or just the little area that we have the old man on. So yeah, just getting out, doing more surveys, and looking and prioritizing where we think they would be highly successful in being reintroduced.
Awesome. And Marion is wondering regarding invasive species, is fire effective on burdock? Have you had any luck with it?
So yeah, burdocks different, right? Like there's a lot of vegetation, lot that could be burnt on burdock. For some reason, like knapweed, it's just so sparse. There's nothing for it to burn, right? So burdock, yes, like if you get it in the fall time when it's browning up, like and you burn it, it'll burn. Um,
Okay.
yeah,
So in the fall. Um, and have you thought about using insects to go after spurge?
we have oh, I can't remember so we've had beetles be released. We actually have some nurseries that we use. And then we occasionally you'll see the moth there that has been released across the river. So we have done some trials with it, and then we've just from coincidence them being released across the river, they'll be on this side of the reserve. So um, yeah, we try to incorporate as much as we can, whether it's insects or goats and pulling, all that. Community
Awesome.
pools, yeah.
Right on. And one of our attendees is wondering, what is your biggest success? What are you most proud of?
Geez, I guess the bison reintroduction, like that was years and years of work. So my two predecessors, Paulette and Tansy Fox, when I first moved home, they started these things called the Buffalo Dialogues with Blackfoot elders. So Paulette got together with Leroy, Little Bear, Amethyst,
Mhm.
First Rider, and they would go to the Blackfoot Confederacy tribes. And they would get elders and knowledge keepers together, and they would kind of ask them what was missing on the landscape, what would they like to see, and the collective was they wanted to see bison on the landscape. They wanted to have our youth see bison on the landscape, and then kind of create that relationship with them. Um, so just that, like it's been a collective, like a Blackfoot Confederacy collective, and then it's plumed out into the Buffalo Treaty, which is worldwide, right? So that Buffalo restoration has been quite the success, and being able to see them on the landscape and watch that the first hoofs hit the ground in our north end, like that was really something special. But then also like the fire, right? Reintroducing fire in that historical fire cycle has also been the same. We reintroduced bison in the winter, and then that following spring we reintroduced fire. So um, those two have really been something special.
Amazing. And it sounds like you've done a lot of work with your community. Do you have a fond moment of bringing youth onto the land that you'd like to share with us?
So yeah, whether that's just getting out, like anytime we could get out with the youth is important. Like we had our ENE days this fall, and having our youth kind of interact with our guardians, like getting to see which type of tools we use and ask questions. Like we had like kindergartners to grade 2, like just really interested in what our guardians were doing. Our guardians, they do everything. They do fire, they do um plant plug, they do like willow cuttings or BDAs, pond levelers. So they do a wide range of all the work we do. And just our youth being able to interact and ask questions was something special.
It's awesome. It's amazing to see the curiosity of young minds, isn't it?
Hmm. Yeah.
And an attendee named Andrea is wondering if you have any recommendations for groups that would like to collaborate with Indigenous groups to incorporate more traditional ecological knowledge.
So yeah, I guess would be to reach out to them. It's always up to the individual nation, but go with an open mind. Like don't go there thinking you're gonna tell them what to do or tell them how you see it. Um, a lot of the times, Western knowledge and indigenous knowledge will conflict. So looking at how you could utilize indigenous knowledge to support uh, Western science or that Western philosophy, um, but not going in there trying to make the two fit a narrative. You got to understand that they come from different lenses, and just utilizing them together without, because there's a lot about braiding and trying to make them, but you can't make one with the other that's trying to like, I don't know, just yeah, just go with an open mind and make sure that you're not trying to dictate what is occurring. And it's always up to the individual nation on how they perceive and um, where they want to go with those type of collaborations.
Okay, well said. That's some great advice there. And I think we've got time for one final question. One of our attendees is wondering if you've had a chance to kind of circle back and monitor some of these invasive weed populations to see if your control methods have been working.
So yeah, we've been kind of noticing goats have really kind of so we've done some transects on different type of like spurge populations before we release the goats or before we release beetles, and then just monitoring that moving forward. I would think like after you'd have to wait at least 3 to 5 years to actually get a good picture of what's occurring on the landscape. So um, yeah, to be continued.
Yeah, of course. That's always a story with invasive weeds, isn't it? Um, we've come up to our hour mark, but I really want to say thank you so much. We've had dozens and dozens of people write in now about how much they've appreciated this presentation. And I'm just going to read you a few of the comments because it's mind blowing how great your presentation was and how inspiring. Dean says, let's hope your holistic approach spreads across this country. It's an approach all agriculture needs to adopt. Keep up the excellent work. Haley says, I just wanted to add that this has been an excellent presentation. I truly hope that future legislator and procedures take traditional knowledge into their best practices. I love the outreach and inclusions of both youth and elders in the conservation future of your lands. And another attendee says, great presentation. Oh, sorry, it jumps around on me sometimes. Thank you so much for the amazing presentation. You do such a wide breadth of very important work. Um, Great presentation. Keep up the great work in keeping northern leopard frogs in Alberta, Canada, and Western North America. Kyle says, thank you for sharing all the really great work that you're doing, Alvin. It's inspiring stuff. Jessica says, great overview and scope goals. Thank you for the talk. Penny says, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge of the land, bison, birds, beavers, grassland, water, and all creatures. It's very important for survival for all of us. So, this has been one of the most inspiring webinars that we've probably ever had. So I just want to say thank you so much, Alvin. It's
Thank
been a real pleasure to have you on.
Awesome. Thank you.
And to all of our attendees, thank you so much for catching our final webinar of Prairie's Got the Goods Week. We've been recording it and we'll have it uploaded on the PCAP YouTube channel in the very near future. And I know if you loved it as much as I did, please feel free to share it and get the word out about amazing work that Alvin and his community are doing. So with that, thank you so much, everyone, and have a great rest of your day. Bye now.